Good afternoon, everybody. This is Priyadarshi, and welcome to Coffee Break Saturday. This is the first time we are conducting the Coffee Break Saturday online, and thank you for our attendees who had joined to our session. Here, I would like to introduce Subramaniam. Uh, I am just saying he's advisor to my startup Yatra, and he do have a vast experience in startup world. And we have our guest Divyanshu Podar. And I would request Subramaniam or Subbu, who is popularly known as Subbu, to take over the things and continue this session. Hello, Subbu.
Thanks, Predashi. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks a lot for pulling this together. Hey, everyone. My name is Subbu. I work in the startup ecosystem in Bangalore. I've worked at a VC fund. I've worked at an accelerator, and I've also worked at an organization called TIE Bangalore. They do a lot of programs for early stage startups, and they work with the government over here. So we do a lot of the early stage entrepreneurship development programs. And yeah, so right now I'm trying to help founders launch companies. I'm trying to help VCs and accelerators understand the ecosystem better and streamline their processes. I met Divyanshu a couple of weeks back at a Thai event, a little longer than that. And when Priyadarshi and I were talking about this event, we wondered who's the ideal person that we can call out. And the reason we reached out to Divyanshu is because one is that he's working in the Indian ecosystem, in the Indian market, building something which is a very, very aspirational product for a lot of people over here. So Divyanshu is the founder of this company called Rocketeers, and Rocketeers is a rocket manufacturing company. They are upskilling students on how to build and launch small rockets. Like you can launch a rocket from your own school. You can work with your own teams. You can understand how that whole process goes about. The reason why Divyanshu and Rocketeers are very interesting to me is because when I was small, I wanted to be an astronaut, and I've been following the whole space industry ever since. So over the next half an hour, 45 minutes, we will be talking to Divyanshu, trying to understand his perspectives and how he's gone about this whole process of building Rocketeers. It's a pretty big company now. They're working across India. So before we jump into the discussion, uh, can everyone hear us? Is everything fine? Just a quick
Uh,
check.
Subbu, your voice is echoing.
Okay.
So I think that might be because I had my speakers on. So I'll be, yeah, I'll fix that.
Okay. Cool. Just checking before we get into the discussion. Let's just do a quick tech check.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Perfect.
Yep. Awesome.
So I think there might be no echo now.
Subbu, am I clear?
Yeah, very clear.
Subbu is clear.
Awesome.
Uh,
Yeah.
Cool.
Audience, anyone have any issues?
Perfect.
Yeah, done. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thanks, SDR. Thanks, Aswat.
Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome on board. So let's get right into it. So Divyanshu, so I gave a quick introduction. I hope most of what I said was accurate about Rocketeers. But why don't you take the stage? Probably just introduce yourself and also give us a brief idea of what you're doing at Rocketeers.
So thank you for the introduction, Subbu, and thank you for this opportunity. Seems interesting. This is the first time I'm doing something like this. Um and so, as you said, we are basically a company that helps students build and launch their own. So rocketry is something that has been around in the US and the UK ecosystems for 30, 40 years now. India has always been a leader in space technology, and we do a lot of stuff with when it comes to space education. But somehow we had this gap of not having any rocketry ecosystem in the country, and that's the gap that I saw and I wanted to address. So now when we started working, we realized that the biggest problem and the biggest reason that this gap is there is because there are no components, there are no parts, there are no safety gear, launch systems, ignition equipment, fuel cartridges, safety gear. All of this is not available at all. And so that's what we started looking at. And today we manufacture all of these systems, and we are slowly trying to make them accessible at a very, very low cost to a large number of Indian students. So we've obviously started with the smaller range of rockets, internationally classified as Class B or Class C solid motors, which basically means at maximum capacity, it's a 250-gram rocket that is going to 400 feet height. So that range we've already commercialized. We plan to scale this up further over the next couple of years. And anybody can buy this. Anybody can fly this. You can do all kinds of interesting experiments. For example, there's a school in Telangana which is doing an experiment where they launch two of these rockets every day, and they reuse them. They land them with a parachute. So they have a pressure sensor and a moisture sensor on these rockets. So after 6 months of doing this, they have a 300-meter profile for temperature and pressure at 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. for their school campus for 6 months. And now they can slice and dice this data, start looking at what they can do with it, what kind of insights they can gain with this. Obviously, this is not a lot of data, but we talk about big terms like big data and machine learning and AI. This actually gives real world understanding to school level students who don't understand these things at a very, very basic level, that what they are talking about and what this will scale up to, and it makes it very real for them. And at the same time, it's something that they're doing on their own from start to end. They're building the rocket themselves, they're launching every day, so there's always that level of excitement of activity. So it becomes a very fun learning activity. This is just one example of the kind of things that are possible. Obviously, there are lots of different things that you can do with it. We look at ourselves as making the Arduino for rockets for India.
Okay. Vijay, I mean, it's a great intro in terms of how you're going about doing this. But let's dial back a little. So back in 2009, when you were doing your BTech, you
Yeah,
were in Indian Institute of Space Science and Tech. So,
yeah.
so how did this whole thing come together? Were you always into space, or is it just something that came to you? Like, take us through that initial bit and how this whole process came about for you.
So yeah, I was definitely always into space, Subbu. So I was just like you in the sense that I wanted to be an astronaut, and I wanted to be an astronaut very, very young. I remember like the first such conversations that I had where I remember using the word astronaut are when I was like 5 years old or 6 years old. And I was very excited about it, and then I got glasses when I was about 7. And at that time, the only people in history who had been astronauts were fighter pilots. So if you had glasses ever in life, even if you get a surgery or anything, you cannot become an astronaut. So
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Satish from audience, you want to ask something. Satish, please carry on.
he can type the question. Is
Yeah,
it?
that's better.
He can type.
Yeah. So I'll continue, and once that. So at that time was the first time that I realized that I cannot be an astronaut. So this dream of the thing that next came up is like, okay, fine, कोई ना कोई rocket banata hai. Like somebody or makes that rocket, right? So that's where that dream of doing rocket science came. As I grew up in school, obviously things waver, and childhood dreams, everybody wants to become something or the other. But the thing for engineering always stuck. And I got really lucky with Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology because I found out about the college after I had cleared my JE. So I
Okay.
had already got my rank and got everything. I was thinking that I'm going to go to an IIT and everything. And in the last moment, I find out about this college, which is a college directly under ISRO, and I am qualified for it, and I can go and study there. And I will have people like Kalam sir and JN Suresh sir as my teachers. And so it was like a dream come true. It was just things fell into place, and that was quite a lot of serendipity.
Wait, so you had like Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam as a teacher.
Yeah, so yeah, Kalam sir taught us launch vehicle dynamics. He was there for 2 semesters. He taught us a total of what 40 lectures.
Oh wow, man! I mean, that is so cool, and you're so
Yeah,
lucky to.
it is very cool on the outside, and it's like I am totally showing off the fact that I had Kalam sir as my teacher.
Uh-huh.
on the ground reality, it was so boring. I slept through 38 of those 40 lectures. And the reason I didn't sleep through the first two was because I was too excited about the fact that Kalam sir is here teaching us.
Okay. No, but that's bound to also inspire you because the rest of the nation is looking up to him and saying, "Oh my God, he's the reason why we're all doing this."
Yeah,
We're sitting
definitely.
in
So the
class.
inspirational side of it was great. But I am sorry to say, I'm sorry to burst people's bubbles or offend anybody, but the fact is that in the classroom, Kalam sir was not a good teacher. He was boring.
But
There were
okay,
there were other great scientists out there who were amazing teachers as well.
Mhm.
There were so many others who were really great scientists and worse teachers than Kalam sir. But CK, that's okay. Uh,
Acha.
so
So, so
yeah,
wait, take us along that path. So you were studying, and then you also had an idea for a startup at around that
yeah.
time.
So while I was there in college, this was I think in my third sem. Yeah, it was in my third sem. I was going for Mood Indigo, which is the IIT Bombay Cultural Festival.
Right.
And I was on the train, and there were some 30, 40 students from our college who were going for the festival. And so we were all in the same bogie. Um, and a friend of mine came along and he just showed me this video on the internet. This was a TED talk by Steve Jurvetson. The TED talk was called The Joy of Rockets.
Okay.
And it's a 3 minute long TED talk. It shows model rockets, Steve Jurvetson talking about it, lots of nice photos, some videos, and stuff like that. And basic, like very clear cut introduction to what model rocketry is.
Got
And
it.
I saw that video and I was so enthused. I was like, oh my God, I'm here being trained to become an actual rocket scientist. I might be contributing to the actual building of the PSLV and the GSLV in 3, 4 years. I definitely want to build this model rocket for myself and fly it.
Okay.
That's where it started off as just an excitement kind of a thing to build for myself.
Got it. Got it.
Luckily, me and my roommate we were both very hands-on with college projects type of stuff. Like we built a bunch of robots, bunch of things over our college life. We built a helicopter, we built a drone, we built a football goalkeeper robot.
Mhm.
Uh, we built a flapping wing robot which like showed how lift works for birds and stuff like that. So we wanted to really build this rocket as well. And
Understood.
at that point of time, we so TK moved Indigo happened 3, 4 months. Like you get busy with college, just think that you want to do.
Mhm.
Uh, but over the next 2, 3 years, we realized that when we wanted to build the rocket, that nothing is available in India, and we couldn't get any parts, we couldn't get any materials, we couldn't get any insight as to how to be able to do this. Like all the other things, we got all the necessary things that we needed. Like if we wanted to build a flapping wing robot, we had our Arduino, we had all the mechanisms that we needed, we had a rotor available, we had motors available, we had everything that we needed. But with this, nothing was available. And even if we designed something on our own, making it was like very high cost. Fuel was another thing that was absolutely almost impossible.
Okay.
Uh, that is the point when we thought that we'll maybe try and buy stuff from the US and get it shipped to India.
Okay.
Uh, at that point of time, we tried to do that. Between the two of us, we managed to save 24,000 rupees. This was mostly prize money from different fests that we went to and did stuff.
Okay.
Uh, and at that time, in that 24,000 rupees, all we could get was like two and a half rockets. And I say and a half because none of them had fuel and we didn't have proper ignition systems and stuff. And we spent so much money on it. And that is the point where we decided, okay, fine, if this is something that if we want to do, we will have to do it from scratch. And we would actually have to 3D print each and every component. We would have to figure out materials. We will have to do the chemical composition of the fuel. We will have to do the chemical composition and the casing and the structure of the casing and the manufacturing. We will have to work out the design ourselves and build it. Like it'll have to be from scratch. And
Okay.
that's when we started looking at doing this. And we were at IIST, so we had access to like amazing facilities. We just went to one of our professors and pitched this as a project. He sanctioned it. After that, we had free access to this chemistry lab which was set up for crores of rupees. There were actual scientists working in this lab, and we could just go. We had the key and do stuff whatever we wanted. And that's how we were able to sort of really go about building a rocket. And
Mhm.
over the and we heard about a lot of people really doing this. People usually build sugar rockets. We did not want to build a sugar rocket because that's like, there's no reliability to it. That's not really science. It's more of a tukka.
Okay.
We wanted to build a scientific rocket. We wanted to have a very proper grain structure. We wanted to be able to understand what it will fly like, how high it will go, everything. We wanted to have a very comprehensive sort of scientific study of the thing.
Okay.
So that's how we thought about it. We built about 80 rockets in the next 2.5 years in college. 70 of them failed. 75 failed, I think. We blew up a lot of things. We blew up the concrete bench near our basketball court. We blew up one oven in the chemistry lab. We blew up one pillar near the new building that was being constructed. So yeah, that was.
Man, okay. No, this is a really fascinating story because see, as like I was just looking at the comments and some people are like, can you just tell us more about what you're doing? So I'm just going to quickly summarize what you've said so far. So basically, what you guys are doing is you got in, you cleared a JE, and then you realized there's this really cool university where you've got literal rocket scientists who are teaching you how to go and build things and how to become a, a good talent in the space industry going forward. And because you were super interested in building rockets, you went about going about that process, realized the components kuch bhi nahi hai. So then starting there, you sourced everything, went through all the hardships of that, blew up what 80 rockets, 75 rockets out of 80. Man, like it must have been awesome when the 76th rocket like actually took off and flew for you
It was
guys.
wild. So it was so amazing. Yeah, like so we had like semi-successful flights. So if you look at real launch vehicle failures, right? Everybody has seen on
Right.
video real launch vehicle failures. So you will have so many of them where the thing actually blows up right on the launch pad, right?
Uh-huh.
But then at the same time, you have so many videos where it launches off the launch pad and then it goes up to certain height and then it blows up in the air. Okay.
Right.
So we had both of those kinds of failures. So we had seen liftoff earlier, like
Okay.
liftoff
Okay.
goes 20 feet and then boom. So we had seen that. So we had the experience of liftoff before the first proper successful flight.
Got
Uh,
it.
but yeah, it was super exciting.
Dude, like this must have really put you on that path of saying, let me go and figure out and let me see how to build this. Was it a smooth transition? And right after this question, I'm gonna go into the comments where they were talking about the business model and how you're going about it. I just wanted to set the right base in terms of because people don't really do what you're doing, Divyanshu. They like even in the startup world, you're the first guy that I've met who's actually said, I'm gonna go and teach kids how to launch rockets. That's why I'm asking so many questions on why do you do what you do.
So, see, even though I was there in this college where I was being taught by all these rocket scientists and I was supposed to be this major talent in the space industry and so on, but when it comes to the reality of the space industry, we are going through a very IT industry moment that IT industry went through in the early 80s, or maybe the auto industry went through in the early 1920s. So that is the time when your industry is transitioning and it's going to become much bigger than it is right now, and it's going to need massive employment and massive human resource. And, that's happening to the space industry now. It's in very early stages. I agree. We as a country are a technological leader globally. Like today, we are in a position where we are one of the technological leaders globally. And one of the most interesting things is that in terms of a unified space program, we are the second biggest space program in a actual democracy. So right after the US,
Okay.
we're there, right? So like other
Right.
programs are not really democracies. They're like China and Russia, and these programs they're developed from a very national security and a defense perspective. So what will start happening is that as space becomes a big industry which starts impacting lives of people in real and meaningful ways, it already does, but ways in which we will feel them every day very tangibly. uh, that's when we will want to have a powerful position in this industry and lead this and showcase to the world the human value system of space. And that only our country is well positioned to do. And so we need this massive human resource, and that's why I started this. And I thought that this is one gap that I can close, and this will give me an in into the education system and the space education system of the country. And from
Okay,
there, really have a bird's eye view of understanding what I can do to make sure that we create that resource pool.
I get that. No, so and plus, like maybe I'm also jumping some questions because we have context, but so Shashwat in the comments was asking, what exactly do you do? So would you want to just sort of recap, like now that you've given context of how you got to where you're doing,
Yeah.
probably just like a two-liner on what Rocketeers is and where you're going. Because I have some more questions.
So we are, if you look at exactly what we do, we are a manufacturer for rocketry parts, components, launch systems, ignition systems, safety gears, fuel cartridges, propulsion systems, and whatever else you may need from model to amateur rocketry. We are the only company in India till today, in the history of India, which has a commercial model rocketry motor available to anyone in the market. You can just go to our website and buy a Class B or a Class C motor. It is international standard compliant. It is the first such indigenous motor. So that is at the core level what we do. We
Okay.
manufacture parts and components, and anybody can buy and build and fly their rockets and do whatever they
So
want.
So what you're saying is I can go to your website and I can purchase a rocket and then I can go out into the field and just launch it and see how that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. And my the other thing that I wanted to sort of bring people's attention to is that you are actually doing this with a lot of schools across India right now.
Yeah.
And could you just talk about like how what is it like when you go to when you go to some of these schools? So again, over here, someone in the comments said that we have a rocket making competition in our in our college every year. So do you work with that or how?
So I can't see that comment about the college. Uh,
Sorry, Shashwat had put
so
that
which
up. In
university
our
is this?
university, there's a rocket making competition every year, but he's in Beijing Institute of Technology.
So is this, yeah, is this Beijing Institute of Technology in China?
I
Yeah,
think
So if it's in China, we are definitely,
yes.
yeah.
Saswat is from
yeah.
Odisha and he
So
had
so yeah,
studies from Beijing.
whatever institutions we are working with, they are in India. And the reason that I got so curious about which institution is Shaswat talking about is because I know on my fingertips the institutions which have anything remotely close to a rocketry competition.
Okay.
So we don't have a lot of institutions or a lot of traction on this competition side, or a lot of traction on institutions or people being doing their things on their own. There are some other people, some other companies, and some other sort of people working in silos who sort of do some things. But at a large scale level, interacting with thousands or hundreds of thousands of students, nobody really is doing it at that level. And
Got it.
trying to build that ecosystem as of now. We work with a lot of colleges and schools, but at the same time, what we are really trying to do is that we work with a lot of companies which work with schools and colleges. We don't see ourselves as an education company. We see ourselves as a manufacturer of these components, which enable the education companies to provide education on rocketry. So we can provide them guidance and consultancy on pedagogy creation and on curriculum creation. But how to implement the program and how to really go about it, bringing to the field, we leave that freedom with our sort of service partners. So there is a lot of freedom in how you would see our products in the market in schools and colleges. It's different in every different ecosystem. So like you will have a lot of ATL vendors who buy our products and then introduce these programs as a part of the ATL in the school. ATL is Atal Tinkering
Uh,
Lab.
that's right, the Atal Tinkering Lab. So then
Yeah,
they would take your components and then they will then put that into the
yeah,
curriculum of
exactly.
their own school.
But I have never even visited a single Atal Tinkering Lab. I am not associated. Rocketeers is not associated with Atal Tinkering Labs in any way.
All right.
Still, across the country, you have more than 600 ATL labs which have rocketry products from Rocketeers.
Okay. So you're not getting into that whole supply chain, or I mean, the whole you're getting into the supply chain for the people who want to push space science in schools and get
Yeah.
students hooked onto this path. But you're not the guy who will go and do a lesson over there saying this is how a rocket works, This is where
So
the propulsion.
we did do a lot of that because initially that was our bread and butter as well until the
Okay.
time we scaled up our manufacturing side and hardware side.
Okay.
Uh, and we still do a lot of that. We take up so we take up first of all we try and take up projects which can become case studies on how to do things. For example, I take up a new type of a lab just to show 5 6 different partners that how to set up a lab, and then they can do that.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So I would take up projects which are including a service component, which are like case studies in unto themselves onto how to do things and how to introduce this in an institution.
Mhm.
From that, we do take up clients which have prestige value associated with them. Like we work with a lot of IPSC schools. We work with IIST. Like IIST ke andar, we have a rocketry workshop and a competition every year.
Okay.
So because there's a sort of associated prestige also with IIST. Like operationally, my company hates going to IIST every year, but we
Okay.
but we still do it because there is a aspect associated where we get to say, yeah, we're working with IIST.
I get that. Okay. Um, uh, let's take a quick question from this. Would you have any idea about this? Can anyone say something about the Kaveri engine failure? Is there a clarification? India still suffering with afterburner issue.
Uh, I,
Any is that along
no.
your path?
So I am not aware about it, and I would not want to comment without actually sort of reading up and.
Perfect, no problem. So let's move on. My main question to you, in fact, Divyanshu, is that starting something which is offbeat, right? The number one issue is this is like to me like having looked at like I've looked at about 1,000 different startups until now at least, and that's why I kept saying that what you're doing is fairly unique to what I'm saying, and that's what you're saying as well. You're the only manufacturers of the classes of rockets that you were talking about. So,
Yeah.
how do you go about taking something which was something more than a hobby, which was more of an obsession for you, and converting it? And you guys are doing pretty good revenues right now. So, could you talk about how that whole process happened? What were your first 6 months like when you decided to set up Rocketeers?
So it was extremely difficult, and the only thing, like the key, if you were to ask me what is the key to our success,
Mhm.
I would say it's patience. Uh, and trust me, when you ask me the question that what were our first 6 months like, I think a more suitable way to ask that would be what were our first 24 months like.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
because in hindsight, if I look at Rockers, I actually we did our first. So I quit my job in ISRO in December 2014.
Okay.
Okay. And I did our first workshop with Rocketeers in May 2015, and then
Okay.
fast forward to May 2017. So I
Could
believe
you
that
repeat that? I think we lost that. What happened in
so
May
uh,
2017?
so fast forward to May 2017, like from
Okay.
2015 to 2017, these 2 years. Uh, if I look in hindsight, we were students, we were still basically college students. We were just still understanding what a startup is, and in the true sense of it, the startup actually really began as a business, as a thought process onto how to create a business model and how to really monetize this and how to really create value out of it. And so on that began in May 2017. From
Okay.
up to May 2017, we were just a bunch of kids building a bunch of rockets and flying them with students without understanding what we will earn out of it, what will be the unit econ. Like we understood nothing. We didn't know what is entrepreneurship. We were just building rockets.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did it go from there on? 2017 onwards,
So
was there like a
2017
moment
on.
where you realized
Yeah,
that
yeah.
okay, now this is big, or how did that happen?
No,
Like because the reason I'm asking is again because every startup has a journey, right? Where
yeah,
it's not like on day one what you try to do is not what you will ultimately end up doing, but you need to have a direction in which you go. So
yeah.
what I'm trying to unravel for everybody else is how did you go about doing that whole process from Acha, I love doing this to this is
So,
something which is
yeah.
actually going to give me
So
something.
yeah. uh, when I evaluated things in May, June 2017,
Uh-huh.
we realized that we have accomplished nothing apart from burning a certain amount of money and maybe flying a few rockets. There was
Okay.
no tangible value that had been created, in the sense that it was not a sustainable business. It could not, like, there was no real value. There was no real IP also in our product at that point of time.
Okay.
Uh, so that is the time when we sort of, and by that time we had understood a little bit in terms of what a business is, that you need to really have a tangible source of income. You need to have like you need to have continuous revenues. You need to be able to sustain operations. You need to manufacture on a regular basis. You need to do multiple things at the same time. You need to be in compliance. You need to file your taxes and so on, right? So that at that time we actually identified the market. We actually identified what the business could be, what are the problem that we are trying to solve, what are the other companies like us who have tried to do things, what is it that we can create and offer to the market that will be unique to us, what is it something that nobody else has done before. And that is when we arrived at this core idea that if we become a high scale manufacturer and bring these products, hardware products, to India and make them accessible at a low cost to the market, this is something that will build up, and this is something that's missing. And that's where we started developing each one of these pieces of hardware on our own. From say June 2017 to approximately February, March 2018, we were in core development mode. We were not doing any sales activities. We were not doing any marketing activities. We were in core, looking inside, trying to figure out what our product is, building out the manufacturing systems of the products that we built. Then, by the time like February, March 2018 happened, by that time we had our own commercial. We had a couple of products which we could release into the market, which would solid IP, which would really create value. But we did not have any money left at that point of time. Whatever money I could spend from my pocket was over, and there was nothing left. And that is the point of time when we applied for a loan with the bank,
Uh-huh.
and we took up debt. We took up bank debt, and using that debt, so when we applied for loan, it took 6 7 months for that to process and things to happen. We got our money only by November, and so when we got our money in November, by January we released our product into the market. The proper fuel cartridges that we are doing now, the proper rockets that we are doing now, and started scaling that up. 2019 is the year that we saw it really start becoming a business, where to an extent 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018 combined revenue is less than the revenue in 2019.
Okay. Wow. That is amazing. Okay. So like for me, Divyanshu, the main thing that's coming out like in everything that you've said is that starting a startup as it is hard, but starting something which is as complex as rocket. This is literally rocket science. It takes you 4 years of literally sort of doing something again and again every day, turning up and just being at it, where you're still trying to explore ways of making money, you're still trying to explore everything else, but
Yeah,
what keeps you going on a
definitely.
daily basis is your passion.
Rather with the coronavirus right now and the current situation that we are in, like,
Yeah.
actually, me and my co-founder were just having this discussion day before yesterday. Like, I remember there were like lots of raised voices. This lasted for hours, the discussion between the two of us.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but yeah, this coronavirus situation is so unprecedented and so unpredictable, and such a punch in the face, that even after 4 5 years of relentlessly doing this, even after getting good revenues and good traction, even after proving that we've created some value and we're doing something which is unique and different, and the market has a demand for it, even after that, now cash flow is going to get so much of a problem that we still might not survive.
Okay.
So like
Okay.
it's really it's a relentless battle in that sense, being able to create value and being able to do something new. And you have, as an entrepreneur, when you sort of uh, jump off that cliff, you really have to be ready to either build that aeroplane or you will land on the ground. There are
Right.
no ways about it. So
Right.
so yeah.
No, that's a very real story, man, and that kind of also gets back to Shashwat's question, which is the way that he's written it is different. Probably, I'll try to explain it a little bit from something that I've been following. I've been following SpaceX, Blue Origin, all of these companies,
Yeah,
Boeing, NASA, everyone, right? So basically,
yeah,
what he's trying to say, and I'm just trying to extrapolate here, is while we have economic issues and while COVID is currently a large issue, not just for you guys at Rocketeers, but across like students. 87% of world students are not able to go to school, and
yeah,
like so the way that you piece together in terms of what you're trying to do was that is something like so probably I just give you one thought and then I'll give it to you because you're in that space and you're doing this every day. But something like working in space tech is a moonshot idea. Like we've also had companies outside of ISRO over here who built rockets to go to the moon. We recently had an attempt to land on the moon as well. So
yeah,
things like this, it's not just aspirational, but it really opens up multi-billion-dollar markets. And India, being a leader, should definitely be in this market, just like how other countries like Taiwan is a leader in manufacturing of electronics. China is a leader in manufacturing of a lot of components, a lot of commodities, and they will still continue taking the lead. So, from the way that I see what you're doing is you're pushing for something which India is great at doing, and that's why that you should be there. But over to you, man, Divyanshu. Like, how do you piece together that piece of
So,
economy, coronavirus, everything, and what you guys are doing?
so first of all, India is not just great at space tech, but the fact that we are the world's first and only civilian first space program. That's very important. So, see, if you look at most of the major messes in the global sort of geopolitics right now, they happened because of the colonization of the earth done by the European nations. And whenever they left a mess. And
Right.
that's what happened with India. That's what happened with Zambia. That's what happened in so many other countries. All of Africa is still suffering
Mhm.
because of that. So when we go out there and we start exploring, we don't have to think like colonization of Mars. We have to think like exploration of Mars. You know, right?
Mhm.
There's this perspective of genuine human value out there in space, and I believe that no other country is better positioned to do that than India. And because we
Okay.
only space program in the true sense that comes from there, that comes from using technology to benefit society. That was the mission and the vision
Right.
of Vikram Sarabhai when he Indian space program. So we are the only ones that like that. That way, it's very important that we do this, because if we don't do this, other countries might go out there, but we will go out there like in a much different way than we might go out there if we go out there as when India is a part of it, and not
Mhm.
part
Mhm.
of it, but sort of leading it.
More than anything else, Divyanshu, I think it's important that people like you talk more about the vision behind ISRO because as a layman, it's easy to get carried away and say that, yeah, we have a great space program. We're capable of launching 100 rockets at a time, but that it's a civilian-led program and that we are supporting so many nations, not just in the SARC, but outside of that, in launching their own space, their own satellites, having their own continue connectivity, everything. India is right up there. And if you look at the economics also, I've been reading this a bit of ISRO versus other even private players, not even like government players. ISRO is actually financially very viable that
yeah,
way.
yeah. ISRO is very competitive in its economics. Yes, definitely.
That's right. So is not India highly underrated in the space program? Do you still think we are underrated in terms of a space program?
So see, we are not. So what I believe that people are talking about is that people try and compare or people underrate our program just on the basis of our direct achievement.
Mhm.
But I believe that as a culture and as an ecosystem, we are quite evolved, and but at the same time, we do have a lot of flaws. And
Right.
right now, we are at a very sort of crucial or pivotal stage. And if we don't really identify those and accept those flaws and start rectifying them, if we continue on the path that we are on, we might be deserving of that underrating.
Mhm.
much beyond that. And right now, it's decisions that will happen right now, or maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, that will sort of define that.
Right. Also, Divyansh, we were talking about startups, then we also switched on to the space thing. Coming back to Rocketeers itself, and again, we've spoken about this before, but can you just touch upon the safety of and also the number of rockets, like just in terms of that people have launched, bought from you and launched, and what's the safety like? Because typically when you talk about space, even like Diwali rockets, right? Safety is a big issue. Like, will this will this explode? All that stuff. So could you just touch upon that?
So when we started off in 2015, uh, India was flying less than 500 model and amateur rockets combined across the country. Uh,
Okay.
most of these were in silos, part of efforts led by select enthusiasts working just with their students around them, or maybe just alone, and so on.
Okay.
Uh, they varied in size from being very, very small, going to just 200 feet and weighing 30 grams, to being fairly big and going to almost 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers. Uh, a couple of teams like Bit Mesra actually went to the US, went even up to 11 kilometers.
Okay.
Uh, in 2019, India flew about 70,000 rockets from 500.
Okay.
In 4 years, this is the increment. And out of these 70,000, 67,000 rockets were flown through Rocketeers. Uh, and we basically primarily flew Class B and Class C model rockets across the country.
Mhm.
And we did fly a couple of amateur rockets as well, nothing very big. But that's not our idea. Our idea is not to build 2 or 3 big rockets. Our idea is to build 70,000, 1 lakh, 5 lakh, 10 lakh small rockets. So,
Right.
yeah.
Man, like that's phenomenal. That's more than 150x in terms of growth, not just in terms of the number of amateur rockets that are being launched, but
Yeah.
also your impact, your direct impact to that community.
Yeah.
And that's one thing which if you look at like the growth of major startups, I'm just trying to extrapolate
So,
from there.
so there's a
Yeah.
question there about the SSLV, or a comment there about the SSLV, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I'd like to comment about the SSLV. So, the SSLV of India is actually the the S40 stage of the PSLV. It is basically the booster that is being used as a separate launch vehicle now, and it's competitive in the market right now because of the pricing that we might that ISRO might be able to put up, because ISRO puts up their pricing of any rocket based on pure hardware. It does not account for development cost. It does not account for salaries.
Okay.
Okay. So the because ISRO is a government organization, so they can price their products in the market like that. Okay.
Okay.
But just on pure comparison, if you compare it with other launch vehicles in a similar market, say for example, if you were to compare it to an Electron by Rocket Labs,
Right.
uh, Electron by Rocket Labs is a 14-ton launch vehicle designed to launch up to 500 kilograms to 500-kilometer orbit. Okay.
Okay.
To do the same 500 kilograms to 500-kilometer orbit, instead of a 14-ton vehicle, the SSLV is a 140-ton vehicle.
Okay.
So that just gives you perspective on the difference in technology and technological efficiency.
Okay.
So we might be market competitive because we developed these things 30 years ago, because we were a prime organization doing cutting edge work 30 years ago, and we may rest on our laurels of those times today. But
Mhm.
if we don't start introspecting, if we don't start accepting the modern ecosystem of space for what it is and evolving for that, we will get left behind very, very fast, and we will not even realize when it happened.
Got it. Just for context, you were talking about Electron Labs 500 kilometers, sorry, 500 kilometers height altitude, which is roughly low Earth orbit. Space
Yeah.
station is at around 350, 400 kilometers up. And so then that just for context, 140 tons is what the SSLV can put up. Divyanshu,
No,
quick comment.
140 tons. No, SSLV can put up 500 kilograms. 140 tons is the weight of the vehicle.
Oh, sorry, 500 kilograms is the payload.
Yeah.
Understood. And what would be your comment? And then quickly we'll go back to Anil's question. But something that comes up to me is recently Agnikul, they were able to they've raised about 23 crores of funding,
Yeah.
and they are also looking at small satellites about, if I'm not wrong, less than 200
Have it
kgs.
from- Yeah,
Less
yeah,
than
they're looking at 150 kilograms, and they're looking at up to. So for their first vehicle, I think they're looking at a very low orbit of 260 kilometers.
okay.
Uh, so that might be useful in very very specific applications,
Mhm.
specific markets. But yeah, what they're looking at is rapid reusability and rapid launch capability. So what that basically does is that the Indian government wants to launch a satellite at the notice of a day.
Right.
That's the capability that something like Agnikul can provide.
Okay. And no, my question to you, because especially because like I'm so happy that people in the audience have they're so tuned into the startup into the space industry. My last question, then we'll go to Anil and Esitar here. My last question to you is, where do you see the private versus government partnerships going in terms of more companies like you guys? You're a component manufacturer. You do a bunch of things. Agnikul has a modular rocket engine itself. How do you see that public versus private, the partnership going forward?
So, as I said a little earlier, also that right now is the time where the Indian space program has to take some key decisions and understand that where it is in this picture and what it needs to do. So, if the Indian program goes forward with the perspective of really opening up this industry in India, genuinely making it private, creating a separate regulator for the industry, uh, creating really seeding that industry in that way, then we might actually see a very good flourishing industry like the IT industry.
Okay,
If it doesn't, then what we will see is ISRO becoming an Air India.
understood. So then you're saying like ISRO
Air India,
should.
if you remember in its early days, was the pride of the nation. It was one of the best and the most luxurious and the most amazing airlines in the world. It had superb hospitality and amazing timing and very nice aircraft and everything. And it was the national flag carrier. It was, a matter of prestige. Air India was. That's
Mhm.
what it is right now.
Right.
Then we can see what Air India is today. In the same way that if the government doesn't really open up the space industry and doesn't really create the necessary sort of changes that it needs to the Space Commission of India,
Uh-huh.
we may see an industry that gets clogged by policy, that gets clogged by government process, and may not flourish in India. It will definitely flourish globally because we are seeing those changes happening globally.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, India will lag behind. But if India goes ahead and does that, then I see that India will not only lead the world, India will probably blow the world away in this because we are already dominating.
I get that. And that's a very well articulated way of saying that, because we've been looking at it. Like ISRO is definitely the pride of not just our nation, but the whole of Asia. But anyway, so coming back to Anil's question, we'll quickly take some questions from the chat as well. So he's saying, what are we delivering out of flying these rockets, which go up, I think, 500 kilometers?
No, no, no. So
Or
our rockets go to
what is
500 feet. I think the 500
that?
kilometers was for the SSLV.
Okay, so is it just educational perspective, or is there a bigger benefit that we are getting? Uh,
So right now, the products that we are releasing are basically for enthusiastic, fun, and educational purposes only. Uh,
okay,
there can be applications that can be created out of it, and we are looking at them. Some of them. They can be as varied as riot control to some defense applications as well, where the Air Force use it as a sighting flare and stuff like that.
okay,
Uh, but our concentration as a company is not on that. Our concentration on the company as a company is to try and seed the rocketry ecosystem of the country. Once you have a rocketry ecosystem, then whatever benefits can come out of a rocketry ecosystem will anyway come out.
got it, got it. So what you're saying is basically you want to lay a strong foundation for how this country takes up rocketry, and then you're happy to let it go in various directions. There will be a bunch of people who branch out, who go work for other organizations as well across the world.
Yeah, yeah,
NASA,
definitely,
people who work here.
definitely. We would like to have, like, our rocketry mafia, like the Indian version of the PayPal mafia.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's a beautiful vision for not just your company, but also putting India as, like, exactly as you said, as the IT revolution, where we're able to not like ship the best talent across the world, and they are leading companies across the world. Now you're saying we can do that in the space industry as well.
Yeah, definitely.
The other question, Divyanshu, tell us about your team.
So we are now a team of 11, 12 people. Some of them, so 11, 12 people are full time. Uh,
Okay.
there are many other people who come in on and off on project to project basis for auxiliary functions. Uh, but on the core, we are 11 people, out of which five are daily wage laborers,
Okay.
and the other six are team members who are there in various either managerial or technical positions,
Got it. Got it.
or even sales.
Um, so Anil, that should answer your question. Then anything else, guys? Any other questions for Divyanshu? Uh, okay, one more. When it comes to product, when requirements towards product development,
Who
who
comes
comes
up?
with the requirement?
So yeah, so it's mostly based on consumer feedback, and also so see, for us it's a very clear. Right now we are trying to leapfrog a global industry that already exists, right? So
Right.
in that sense, it's very important for us to first achieve global benchmarks of this industry the way they are.
Okay.
Uh, do that very rapidly. And
Divyanshu, we lost audio.
I think we lost connections with Divyanshu also.
I see. Okay. So
Uh, Maybe the net got
then we can
disconnected.
sort of
Priyadarshi, okay.
Divyanshu.
other things as well.
Divyanshu, we lost you. Could you repeat that bit?
Hello.
We lost you. Could you repeat Anil's question again?
So yeah, so basically what I was saying was that right now we have certain products in the market. There's a product roadmap that already exists for us to follow, sort of, that's there out there in the world, right? So our first sort of rapid goal is to sort of meet that. So right now, if you look at the black powder and the APCP segments, there are various standards of fuel cartridges that are already available in the USA or the UK or Israel or Australia or China.
Okay.
So the first criteria for us is to sort of make all of those things available to the Indian market.
Okay.
And we obviously tweak for the Indian market. We try and understand what the Indian consumers need and how the product would suit the Indian consumer better. So that's just like McDonald's not serving a Big Mac but serving a Makalo Tikki. So, but at the end of the day, it's a burger.
Okay.
So we do tweak our product for the Indian customer. We make it significantly cheaper. There are obviously different chemicals that we're using, so we get a different thrust profile, but we still sort of make it compliant with the international standards, and so on. But there's also a lot of pedagogical sort of detail that Indians require. Like, Indians are not as hands-on and as DIY as maybe someone from the US. So a high school student in the US will just take something and build it on their own. They will not need teachers. They will not need help. Whereas an Indian student will need help. Or for that matter, even after help, the Indian students are sort of scared to interact with something that is new.
Okay.
So, so we have to really create systems which account for all of those things.
Mhm.
And we look at that much more. So that comes under user experience, and a lot of consumer feedback is taken to sort of improve that experience and create it specifically for the Indian student. But on the technical side, the product development doesn't really need a lot of specifications to be built out from us. There's a roadmap that's available, that's easy to access from a global market.
Okay. So sort of unpacking that is to say that it's not necessarily cutting edge in terms of what you're building, but then bringing it down to a level where, as you said, 5,000, sorry, 500 to 70,000 rockets is something which it's like the initial technology bit. It takes some amount of effort, but taking that into production scale and then bringing it to a level at which you guys are doing is what you're focusing on mainly,
So
if I'm right.
also Subramaniam, the cost that makes it accessible in India is very important. So if you remember, I
Right.
told you that in the beginning, when me and my roommate started doing this in college, we spent 24,000 for 2.5 rockets,
Huh?
right? We
Yeah.
spent 24,000 for 2.5 rockets. That was 9-10,000 rupees per rocket.
Okay.
Today, I am selling in the Indian market, selling, I kid you not, at 900 rupees a rocket already. That's
Wow.
already a 10x decrement in the price that the customer is buying it at.
Got
So,
it.
so in terms of being able to make it accessible to the Indian community, bringing that cost down, designing it like that, making it indigenized, making it highly accessible, those are the things that are really difficult for us. And we have to develop the manufacturing system from scratch. So all the machines that we're working on, we built the machines ourselves from scratch. So
Okay. Okay.
that's the kind of detail that we have to go into, because otherwise it won't be cost effective. And and we plan to bring this cost down further. We hope that by 2022 or 2023, a basic model rocket in India should cost less than 200 rupees to a student.
That is like Diwali rates basically. I
Yeah,
mean that
we believe it should be cheaper than that.
that's so cool. No, I'm sure that like at least I strongly urge everyone over here to go and check out Rocketeers and also like sort of see where things are going. Just two more questions. I think after this we will close, Divyanshu, because I know that you kind of holding you up. But two questions. One is again, Anil has got a question about like how you approaching the whole funding piece. I mean, even if you're not like able to divulge direct numbers in terms of how you're going about that process is what he's asking.
So, very honestly, it has been one of the biggest challenges for us. Uh, like we're very scared about how coronavirus will impact this as well, because cash flows are very razor thin.
Mhm.
Uh, and we did try. So as I told you, that 2015 to 2017 was sort of useless, uh, except for us understanding how to be entrepreneurs. So
Okay.
from that point, it was amazing, but from a startup perspective of growth, it was not much. Uh,
Right.
but during that time, we had tried to do a fundraise as well. And obviously, fell flat on our feet because we didn't really have a company at that time. Um, we just had we just had something. We were students, right? Uh, and we're trying to do a fundraise again right now. Actually, I believe Subbu, we've already had a couple of discussions on that front.
That's right.
And the coronavirus cycle is definitely impacting meetings, but most of the fundraising thing can happen online because it's just people talking and sort of exchange of emails and documents and so on. It's not really going to the factory or going to the school and stuff like that, which is the bigger problem right now.
Mhm.
Uh, so on that front, things are moving. They're a little slower, obviously. Like there's a little sand in the gears, so they've slowed down, but like it's still moving. It's a very difficult bet for us, or a very difficult piece for us, because the startup funding doesn't really work in the same way as the kind of startup that we are. Startup funding, especially from the VC side, if you look at it, comes at a very all the VCs want a startup that will scale up at zero marginal cost. Like a software startup scales up. Like whether Google Maps is being used by one person or 10 people or 10,000 or 10 million, the cost for Google is same, right? So the increase in cost is marginal for Google. So VCs sort of look for startups which scale up like that, and we are definitely not like that. We are manufacturing on our own. We cannot even have outsourced manufacturing because we are manufacturing explosives. So we need to set up our own manufacturing units. We are very capital cost heavy. So the VC market, we don't really fall into their thesis. We do to some of these government grants every now and then. For
Exactly.
the Karnataka government has Elevate program that we got access to. Uh, then we got a couple of government grants from Niti Aayog. But they come in now and then, and you have to really work hard. You have to fill up their form, do all their compliances. There are lots of paperwork. You have to talk to them. You have to make sure that you've clicked on all the buttons right.
there will always be that point in that form where there will be one captcha that you haven't fulfilled. That is why your application has not been accepted. So you have to
Uh-huh.
do, right? But once you do that, these government grants do sort of come with no strings attached. So that's always a good thing.
How,
Uh,
maybe you can go a little bit into that in terms of how has been your experience into, like, take us through some of the timelines as well, like from your first time conversations to actually
so for
getting the
example,
money.
I can give you the
How
timeline
does that?
for so I can, for example, I can give you the timeline for Elevate. So say for example, the applications open in January.
Okay.
You start applying in January. Your applications will probably close by March. Your evaluations and first results will probably be by June. You will probably be going through all the talks and all the processes and everything by August, September. You may start getting the confirmation of your money by November, December. You may get your first money by February and the last of it by next year, June. So, yeah,
So it's roughly a 1 year process, and from the
yeah,
time
one
that you
and a half year it will take you from start to end, and it's a cumbersome process. It will take up a lot of your time. If you expect it won't take up time. So, like, if you're looking at a grant which is roughly like 20 lakhs, uh, so for example, a DST startup grant of 20 lakhs or an Elevate startup grant of 20 lakhs, uh, it will require at least 250 to 300 hours of the founder's time to execute it.
okay. Man, those are real numbers, like 250 to 300 hours, because you've got to go through different layer rounds of pitching.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
the pitch deck is expected in a certain way. So when I was at TIE the first year, we sort of ideated on Elevate, and then that's where things got kicked off. So I'm sort of going back to those days where we were looking at it, and from our side, it was always that let's make the process as simple as possible, because we're trying to bridge someone who's at the forefront of innovation, people like you guys, all founders for whom every day matters. At the same time, we've also got to take into account there's years of processes that are gone into things, right? So then bridging the two is what we were trying to do. And I think that's an evolving process where hopefully I've been talking to the teams as well. They are trying to make it simple.
Even though it might be evolving in the specific case of Elevate,
Yeah.
what I was talking was from a general government grant perspective. Uh,
Okay.
whether it is Niti Aayog, whether it is DST, whether it is METI, whether it is NASCOM, whether it is whatever it is, whatever central government, state government, it doesn't matter.
Got
But
it.
if you are going to be applying for a government grant, there is going to be a lot of work. You will have to dot your I's and cross your T's. Even
Mhm.
one dot missing, things will not work. Um,
Okay.
there will be a lot of things which are operationally redundant, but you will have to go through them. It's a grind of sorts, and you will have to put in a lot of your time. But if you do all of that,
Uh-huh.
there's a right chance that you will get money, and that money will help you, will give you a runway, and it will be no strings attached. You don't have to give equity, you don't have to give product out, you don't have to do anything. It's free money.
Got it. And there are also grants from BPCL, from IOCL, going up to crores. So I think what we can do, Priyadarshi, is one is Divyanshu. First of all, thanks a lot for joining us in such a short notice. It's always great to talk to you. I mean, from the moment that I met you, I've always been like, oh my God, this is such a cool company because of what they're doing. But for you to come out and share, with the audience over here as well for what you're doing, we're really thankful to you. And Priyadarshi, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Dibyanshu, and thanks, Subbu, for connecting to Dibyanshu. And yes, Dibyanshu, we are most of the audiences are right now are basically from Odisha, and Vignesh is from Bangalore.
Okay.
So many of the audiences on the our audiences would be requiring your help.
So if people are interested in what's happening in Orissa, there's a college called VSSUT, which is in Orissa.
They are in
Uh,
Odisha and they had launched their satellite.
yeah, they have not launched their satellite. They have launched amateur rocket. They
Hmm.
have given a satellite proposal to ISRO. Their satellite probably won't be launched. Um, Problems with that satellite. So, but yeah, they're doing good work.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Because I have two of the faculties who are helping us. My Shatabatra team in BSSUT Purla. I'll
Yeah,
be connecting to them.
yeah,
Okay, it's a really nice talking, Dibyanshu,
yeah.
and thanks Shubhu.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Rest,
you. Subbu. This was a lot of fun. I
yeah,
hope that people found my sort of 2 cents interesting and got some interesting things to hear out of it.
sure, sure. And our team and audiences, yes, we are coming with next event on Monday. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks for
Thank you,
joining.
guys. Thank you, Subbu. Thank you, Priyadarshi.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye. Bye.
Divyanshu.